Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back to the channel. Glad y'all are here today. So in today's video, y'all come along with me. I got a special treat for you. We're going to be making some homemade biscuits and some sausage gravy using my home canned sausage. I've had a lot of requests wanting to know how I use a lot of this canned stuff. So I'm going to show you how I make sausage gravy. But first, we got to get these biscuits going. So this is an old-fashioned dough bowl that was made by a neighbor of mine. He doesn't make them anymore, but this thing I really hold dear to my heart. And every time I see him, he says, "You still using that dough bowl?" So I like to make my biscuits in it. I don't always use this, but this is just a couple of cups of all-purpose flour, what I've got right here. And I'm just breaking up some of the little clumps. Some people sift their flour for biscuits. I'm not one of them. Probably should, but I got my oven set on 425. I got my pan in there preheating, and we're going to add a big old heaping tablespoon of baking powder. Now, if you've watched the channel for any amount of time in the last couple of years, I also make biscuits using self-rising flour too. I make biscuits all kinds of ways. Sometimes I use lard, sometimes I use butter as the fat. Just depends on how I'm feeling that day. So today we're going to be using lard. So I'm just going to make sure that's all worked in there. I'm going to put a little salt. I don't know, about a teaspoon. Something like that. Sometimes I also like to add sugar to my biscuits. I'm not going to today, but sometimes I do. Biscuits are so forgiving. Once you figure out what you're looking for in the dough, they're so forgiving. I'm going to do a big old spoonful of lard. Actually, we're going to do a couple spoonfuls of lard here. Now, we just got to get that worked in. You don't have to use your hand. You can use a dough cutter or a fork or whatever. Most of the time, I just got to where here lately, I just use my hands. And now listen, y'all, I don't want y'all to be thinking that I get up and do this every morning, because I do not. This is it's a rainy morning. Me and Andy were talking about last night. I was like, well, since it's gonna be so rainy, I'll get up and cook some breakfast in the morning. And I thought, what a better opportunity than to bring y'all along with me. So I'm just pinching that in there. You want it to start looking real rough, almost like cornmeal. You don't want any lumps to be any bigger than like the size of a pea. The better you work it in there, the better your biscuits are going to be. You see how rough that looks now, but there's no big clumps in there anywhere. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, I'm going to make me a little mountain in here. Kind of get it all together. I'm going to make me a little pond there for my milk. Now, we're going to fill up our little pond. There we go. Now, we're going to slowly kind of get right here. We're going to slowly grab our flour around and mix it in. This can be done with a spoon or whatever. But here lately, I just assume use my hands. I'm not making but a few, so that right there may do it. I'm just giving it a little knead. You notice when I was stirring it, I just didn't keep, I was just kind of pulling the flour in All right. That right there will work. Get my hot pan out here. We're gonna put some butter in the hot pan. Then we're gonna make our biscuits. So I'm gonna pinch me off a little ball here. Get your little flour on your hands if it's wanting to stick. I'm gonna make me a little ball. Set that on there. All right, we're gonna mash them flat. Flattish. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna pop those in the oven for about, take them about 15-20 minutes, something like that. And while we're doing that, we gotta go down to the grocery store. Welcome to my grocery store. The lighting is absolutely terrible down here. It is a dirt basement, so it's just dark, y'all. It's the perfect place to keep canned food, so I apologize. Canned sausage. There we go. See there? So we need that for our gravy. All right, let's get this open. When you hear that right there, you know you're in good shape. Now, I only can sausage like every other year. I try to can enough for 2 years at a time. I always make sure it smells all right. Smells fine. So you want all that grease in there. Nothing makes good sausage gravy like canned sausage, because the texture, like canning, it changes the texture, which is delicious for gravy because it's like a finer texture. So we're just going to let that warm up. I do have a video floating around the YouTube somewhere of me canning this sausage. So I'll see if I can locate that, and I'll be sure to link it down below. So the only thing with canned sausage is the way that I can it in the pressure canner, you can't make sausage patties out of it. So it's best for cooking like stuff like this. Anything but sausage patties pretty much. Alright, looks like my grease is decently hot. I need to add just a little flour. You want just enough flour to soak up all the, or most of the grease anyway. Now y'all might make gravy a little different. This is just how I was taught to make it. And then we're going to let it cook just a minute like that. After that flour soaked up all that grease. Your best gravy comes from when you start smelling it and it almost smells like it's trying to burn. That's when you know your gravy's going to be good. So I'm going to cut my heat off for right now. I'm going to pour my milk in there. That cast iron will hold on to a little bit of heat, but I want to get all this mixed in and then I'll cut my heat back on. I just don't want to scald my milk, so I cut it off. Alright, while that heat's off, we're going to give this a good layer of black pepper. I really like peppery gravy. That's all up, you know, taste. All up to your taste. Now I'm going to cut my heat back on. We've had it on low this whole time, which this is a gas stove, so my low versus an electric stove's low is a little different. From what I've learned from switching from electric to this. So it's a little higher than low on an electric stove. But On my stove, it's on low. And you'll notice this, once it starts getting hot, it's going to start thickening up. And then we're going to give it a little taste test. I hadn't added any salt yet, you may have noticed. I'm going to taste it first because the seasoning that's in the sausage is a little bit salty. But if you're ever making gravy and you taste it and you feel like it's missing something and you can't put your finger on what it's missing, it's salt. I'm telling you. Add you some salt and it'll eventually taste right. Now the longer, like if your gravy also, if it has a floury taste, like if it tastes like raw flour, you hadn't cooked it long enough. So you need to let it cook a little longer and you'll cook out that flour taste. And all this is from my years trying to learn how to make gravy when me and Andy first got married. I have experienced all these things. But you can make gravy as long as you got a little grease, a little flour, and a little milk or water. You can make gravy from anything. Just the same way that I'm showing you here. I'm going to give it a little stir. And then I'm going to taste it and see what I think it needs. I'm sure it does need a little bit of salt. I just don't want it too salty. Yep, it don't need much. Not at all. Just giving it a little sprinkle there on top. Check on my biscuits. There they are. It doesn't have a floury taste and it's about as thick as I want it. And the longer it sits here, the thicker it'll get. But that right there is perfect pouring texture. So, biscuits a little bit. Now, as you can see, my biscuits are not perfect biscuits by any means, but if you want them perfect, you can cut them out using a glass or a biscuit cutter. But for gravy and biscuits, y'all, they ain't got to look pretty. As long as they taste good, that's what matters. So, let's cut that open. They're a little crumbly, but it just is what it is. Sometimes they are, sometimes they ain't. But you can see how fluffy and flaky those are. They're not hard. So, perfect gravy biscuits. Well, there you have it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a little something. This right here took me about 30 minutes to make. If you got any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I'll leave that canning sausage video here at the end of this one as well, so y'all can find that easily if you want to watch that. And anyways, guys, till we see you on the next one, y'all have a good one.